The Federal Executive Council has approved a sweeping new policy framework named Renewed Hope, Nigeria First Policy, which appears to mirror U.S. President Donald Trump's America First doctrine and represents a bold shift in the country's economic approach. According to the Information and National Orientation Minister, Mohammed Idris, the decision was approved by the Council and will be enforced immediately. He said that the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, is to revise and enforce procurement rules that prioritize Nigerian-made goods and homegrown solutions across all ministries, departments, and agencies. And the question many have asked is, do we produce enough for us to implement such a policy? Joining us to discuss whether this new policy can be achieved is Professor Bongo, a professor of economics at the Lagos Business School. Welcome to the morning show, Professor Bongo.
Good to see you again. Doc.
Okay.
Great to see you too.
We discussed this subject yesterday. And my own argument was about productivity. And the fact that we have had this policy, similar policies in the past, buy made in Nigeria and all of that. While it is patriotic, those policies in the past did not work. It's not enough to just say, oh, BPP, we enforce the rules and all of that. How about also the human element, particularly with regard to expatriate quota? And these are leaders who do not seem to believe in Nigeria, talking about Nigeria. Innocents producing cars, they won't buy from him. They would rather buy, I don't know, these expensive cars. Vimbai, tell me.
Cadillacs.
Cadillac, limousine. Bugatti, okay. Some mischievous guy in the gallery is saying Bugatti. So how are we going to achieve this industrialization policy? By mere pronouncement.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important and urgent issue right now. I think we have gotten to that juncture where we need to rethink our development strategy. Because what Trump has done is to show us that the world has really shifted. And by the way, before I get to this, if you look at the transition matrix, countries that have managed to beat poverty over the past, say, 30 years, there are not too many of them. Okay, maybe China is number one, and then India is following suit. A little bit of Vietnam and some other few, countries. But by and large, it's beginning to get more and more difficult for countries to actually, transform themselves into advanced economy and all of that. Of course, because of the changing production system and network. And then countries that have managed to beat that, what I call a development trap, like India, there is something they did, which is clear-cut policies, meticulously executed. They had strategies that were meticulously executed and implemented. So it's not just the mere pronouncement of policies buy made in Nigeria or prioritize indigenous production. Your question is, Jermaine, do we have the potential, the productive capacity to even meet what we need? And the answer is unequivocal, is unambiguous. No, we don't. Okay? I am looking at some statistics, which is the labor productivity in Nigeria. In fact, compared to other African countries, we are the least. Our labor productivity is in the negative, like minus 1.5% or something like that. So very, very low, meaning that we are negatively productive. So when you look at that, now a country's standard of living, that's one of the 10 principles of economics, depends on its ability to produce goods and services. So that is productivity determines living standard. If you are productive, your living standard will, increase. But if you're not, that's exactly where we are now. Living standard in Nigeria is abysmal, and it's because of our low productivity. It is not just by mere policy statements. Like I said, we need to have clear strategy and then meticulous execution. Now, there's something India did. They talk about minimum government and maximum governance. Minimum government, maximum governance. In our own case, what we have is maximum politics, zero governance. Okay? Maximum government, maximum politics, zero governance. And that is where, so it's not about talks. How many kilometers of rail network have we expanded in the past 10 years? How many road networks have we expanded in the past 10 years? So if you look at the pillars that India has followed, I will come to that. If you consider India, because when they rethought their development strategy, knowing where the world, understanding the shift in the global development architecture, they had to devise a new strategy. The pillar, so investments in public infrastructure, social infrastructure, physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and then simplification of laws. Okay? 5 pillars. The infrastructure investment across all the infrastructure pillars: public, social, physical, and digital. Now, if you take them one by one in Nigeria, let's start with social infrastructure, which is actually where productivity lies. Social infrastructure is investment in education, in investment in competitiveness. How competitive are we? Yes, some people may argue that Nigerians we're exporting talent to the rest of the world. Our medical doctors are going everywhere. But that is as far as it goes, right? Even if they are here, their productivity is so low. Why is the productivity level low in Nigeria? Because productivity, doesn't run on itself. It has to be complemented by those supporting infrastructure, which do not exist. You were talking about electricity. How do you talk about productivity when we have not managed to stabilize electricity? Ghana has managed to do that. So when you see these kind of things, you now know that some...
Well, at the Prof, at the presidential villa, they say they are installing solar.
10 billion.
Solar. So maybe if they are productive in the villa, maybe all of us will be productive by osmosis.
Professor, by osmosis.
Yeah, actually, I thought about that because when you talk about productivity, you also have to talk about policy productivity.
Okay, but let's focus on the Nigeria First policy. Yes. You touched on China. I just have two quick points. You touched on China. China's growth burst was not based on domestic consumption. So is it possible for one to actually achieve this growth based on domestic consumption? That's number one. Number two, the oil price is at $60. Well, fluctuating around the 60 mark. We all know that our budget is based on an assumption of $75. Is this the smartest time for the government to now become the biggest consumer of local products when there's so much uncertainty about how our budget is going to be funded? Is the timing of this policy really strategic enough?
Okay, thank you. 2 questions. The first one is, domestic capacity, domestic production. Okay, so China did not grow by that, and there's reason for that. Let me piggyback to what I was saying earlier, which has to do with global value chains. So if you look at the production network today, the way it is, the value system, you notice that you can count the number of companies that are very active, that have dominated all the value chains. Okay? So if you're looking at oil and gas, who is a major player, probably what will come to your mind would be Total, the 7 sister energy companies, and of course some national oil companies like Saudi Aramco. If you go to furniture making, there is this Swedish company that comes to mind. Then if you go to manufacturing in Europe, you have Krones, you have some other manufacturers. So you can name the top brands in every product today. Now, what countries do is to create an enabling environment to support those brands. Okay, and that's what China does. So if you look at China's position in the global value chain, you can see that they are very dominant. Whatever value chain you identify, you see that the Chinese are either the manufacturing, that's production based, or they are the R&D based, which is pre-production, or sometimes even the after sales, which is post-production. Any value chain at all, they encompass it. Same thing with the United States and so many other countries, because the production system has shifted. It is no longer about nations, states producing, okay? It is private sector, okay? Private capitalists. Now look at Trump, what he has done, because he's, so if you try to deconstruct what has happened in the US, you will now begin to understand this paradigmatic shift. Trump has about 22 billionaires in his cabinet, right? One of them is a man, the only single individual that has managed to replicate what the state used to do, which is Elon Musk. Elon Musk the other day launched a rocket. His company did that. And then they were able to get back the rocket launcher, which has never been done in history. Okay? Remember the arms race between the Soviet Union and all that? It was about space exploration. So when they did that, that launcher will explode because that's what propelled the mission. But he was able to get it back so you could see that what states used to do, private companies are now doing it. So what states are doing to support, private entrepreneurs, support capitalists to do what they can do best. Okay? So when government comes with this whole ambition of buying locally, being the center of gravity, of course, you know that policy is not right. And definitely it's not going to work. Okay? Again, it's not about declarations and pronouncements. We have to look at execution. So the second question you asked...
timing.
The timing.
We don't know
so you put all of the fate of our budget, what is going on, $60 oil price against $75 benchmark. I think this is the time the government really needs to be fretting. But from all indication, they are really proceeding, business as usual. So nobody is really thinking about the urgency of the moment. I don't see that in their body language at all.
I want you to talk me through two concepts. Comparative advantage in doing this, because it's needed for you to jumpstart the economy. Cost of capital to be able to bring about that process.
Yeah.
Because you need a lot of capital. Thirdly, will be national reorientation.
Yeah.
And value proposition. Because when you look at models around the world, you remember the Japanese model, and how it took Japan time to now start believing in the Zaibatsus, or how it took Korea time to be believing in the Shaibos, or the Germans time to believe in Mittelstadt. Because for you to propel this out, it will still be companies you will use. How are you going to give them subvention and all of that? But quality is also a big thing. Japan used to have big quality problems up to the 60s and 70s. Before then, it worked at stabilizing the quality in Japan.
So starting from the first one, which is the comparative advantage, which is about productivity. So you are productive if your products are making it in the market. It means that your competitors find your products more attractive, more appealing, affordable, and more efficient. So that's the basis of competitiveness. So if you look at competitiveness or comparative advantage, right, it means that you can produce goods and services at lower opportunity costs than others. Now, when you look at it, so what can we really produce at lower opportunity costs than others as it is today? If we are realistic, if we are truthful, I can't think of anything that Nigeria can do better than any other country, even in Africa. Let's go down to menial jobs like tilers. You're looking for painter or tiler or masons. All over Nigeria, the Togolese, the Beninois, they have run over that particular artisanal market. Those are the likeliest people you're going to hire because they will give you, better quality than Nigerians. So, something as basic as that. That tells you that our productivity, our efficiency has actually dropped, right? So we do not have that capacity to do what the president wants to achieve with this policy. That's the first thing, because we need to invest in the right infrastructure. Now, the second issue you raised has to do with how do we believe in ourselves and all of that. Now, there's a big problem. In the news recently, I think it also came from you, we have this issue of per capita income of Nigerians now below $900. we should be one of the lowest in Africa. So when it comes to GDP, domestic product, Nigeria is about 4th or 5th in Africa. But when it comes to per capita income, we are like number 42. All right? So that actually creates what is called poverty trap.
Okay, Professor. What is the way forward? Trying to manage time. Now, the federal government has come up with this policy, Nigeria first and all of that. Yeah, we may have been skeptical about it, but what do you think is the way forward? How can the Nigerian government achieve that objective, whatever the imperfections we have on the ground may be?
Yeah, there are some templates we can follow, right? Some people are looking at how do we optimize some of the things that we even have, our natural resources. And that is what some countries in Africa are doing, whether you are following what is going on with Niger and so on, okay? In Botswana as well. So they are optimizing their natural endowment. Is it possible for us to do that? Yeah, there's a way, there's a route there. I mean, when I was talking about global value chains, at least we are active in 2 value chains. Dangote has taken us to the refinery value chain, so we're active there, where our end product is consumed in other places. The Nigerian LNG is also another value chain that I think we are active globally. Nigeria is number 5. But unfortunately, the NLNG is producing at less than 50% of its installed capacity. Can we increase that? If we expand it, find ways to help them to expand or something, because their challenge is feedstock. Okay? That is a template that we could follow. Then the other one is indigenous production. How do we encourage indigenous production capability? Now, there is the issue that he raised here, which is about capital, access to capital. I think that's another big problem. Now, how do we navigate through all of this? I think there are solutions that government needs to consider. But the thing is this, it's good to talk about policies, to make declarations, but what about the intention to implement? I think that's where the challenge is.
Okay, Professor, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that those who should listen are listening to you.